Hi, this is Steve Lutman with SJ Lincoln Realty, and today we'll be reviewing a duplex acquisition in upstate New York. Topics to be covered are researching a given real estate market, exploring potential grant funding and loan programs, before wrapping up with a financial analysis. Today's content will be best suited for people considering becoming real estate investors, as well as all of the renters out there who are contemplating making the move into homeownership. Again, this is Steve Lutman with SJ Lincoln Realty. Let's get started. We'll start today with a walkthrough of the subject property. This is a 6-bedroom, 2-bath duplex in the city of Gloversville, which is 1 hour northwest of the state capital of Albany, 45 minutes west of Saratoga Springs. Property condition is fair and habitable. Some updates have been completed in the kitchen and the bathroom that would be considered appropriate for the area. This would certainly represent an opportunity to increase equity with additional improvements. Even something as simple as refinishing the floors and a fresh coat of paint in the interior of the units would go a long way, especially from a tenant enjoyment perspective. Once the client has keyed in on a specific property, it's our job as agents to educate in terms of what would be an appropriate offer price. And in order to make that determination, we're going to head over to the multiple listing service. That's the data that us as agents have access to. And we're going to be focusing in on multifamily sales within the city over the past 12 months. And we're keying in on specifically 12 months because eventually when the bank goes to send the appraiser out to determine what they believe value to be, how much they're willing to lend, they are going to be looking at sales over the past 12 months, not what's currently on the market, not what's pending, what's actually sold. So if we're going to be educating our client in terms of this is an appropriate offer price, we want to make sure that we're looking at the same data as the appraiser is. So residential multifamily, that's going to be anything 2 to 4 units in size. We're not looking at single family. We're not looking at commercial. Obviously, industrial wouldn't be relevant in this conversation. 2 to 4 units in size, that's what we're looking at over the past 12 months. So the first property here, hopefully everyone can see it, is located on 7th Avenue. This sold back in June. I'll make this a little bit, move it to the side so everyone can see it. And the buyer paid just over $47 a square foot back when they acquired the property. And we'll take a look at some of the listing photos here. Obviously, listing photos can be a little bit deceiving. These look like they were taken on a cell phone, so there shouldn't be any shenanigans, but I can't tell you the number of times I've walked into a property expecting to see one thing, and the condition left a lot to be desired, but typically that's not the case when what I assume to be the listing agent took these photos. They didn't pay for a photo service, so very basic, I think is kind of the big takeaway here. There's nothing that wows me. I would say our units are in equal, if not better shape. I would lean towards better shape than these. So this is what $43 a square foot gets you. $47 a square foot gets you in the city of Gloversville. Next, we'll take a look at this 4-unit property, which sold just a few weeks ago. And the buyer paid $50 a square foot. And yeah, I would say, again, nothing's wowing you. No stainless steel appliances, no granite countertops, which you would not want to do because it wouldn't be appropriate for the area, right? So we want to make sure any improvements we're doing, we would get rewarded for. And if the area is, lower income, if that's going to be your renter base, then it wouldn't make sense for you to put in, luxury finishings and whatnot because you would not be compensated for it. So very habitable. It does appear, at least in one of the units, that renters are living there. However, look at this bathroom. There's nothing that's blowing us away here. So this is what, $50 a square foot. And finally, we'll wrap up with this duplex over on 8th Avenue. This is also a fairly recent sale back in November, and this was $43. So this is going to be, from a price per square foot standpoint, the most affordable. And this property realistically hasn't been updated in decades. So where do we want to be? Well, I'd say $50 was the highest that we saw from comparable sales. If we're assuming that the property we're looking to purchase would be at a slight premium to that. Maybe we'd be comfortable at $55 a square foot. And we'll take a look at the listing for that particular property we're interested in. And based on the listing, the living square footage is 2,444. When you are purchasing multifamily real estate, do not take the listing information as gospel. You need to do your own due diligence. Reach out to the municipality. What is the living square footage? How many bedrooms do you have on the assessment rolls? How many baths should there be? You want to make sure that if the seller added, let's say, another bedroom at some point, did he get that through code? Did everything completed up to code? You want to make sure that there's no discrepancy in terms of square footage. However, for purposes of today's video, we are going to assume that the information is accurate. So they said 2,444 square feet. So our offer price based on that information would be, we'd be comfortable somewhere in the $135,000 price point. Ideally, we could kind of negotiate that down a little bit. However, in a competitive real estate market, you want to make sure that the offers you're submitting are reasonable and appropriate. And what I mean by that is you want to negotiate hard, but if you think a property is worth $200,000, submitting offers for $125,000 are not only wasting your time, it's wasting your client's time. And even if you're thinking, well, we'll start low and we'll get them down, and a lot of times the seller is just going to blow you off and just say, don't bother submitting anything else. So if you are submitting offers, make sure that yes, you want to be competitive. Yes, you want to be aggressive, but make sure they're also reasonable as well. So we're realistically thinking this property is worth somewhere around $135,000. We'd probably start the conversation closer to 120, 125, see where the conversation takes us. What also is important is how long has the property been on the market? Sellers are going to be more willing to negotiate with you if it's day 60 versus if it's day 6. So I know personally, when I'm working with a seller client and we're trying to find them a buyer, my policy is first week on market, no discounts. If we receive an offer that's below asking, we're saying come back with something better. We're just brand new on market. So does everybody have that policy? No, but that's how I educate my seller clients. So we think this property is worth somewhere around 135. We would probably start the conversation somewhere around 120, 125 and see where that takes us. Next, we'll turn our attention to how we're going to pay for the property. If you are purchasing this strictly as an investment, you are not going to live there. You're going to be renting out both units. For a duplex, you're going to want to plan on putting 20% down of the purchase price. So for a $125,000 property, you'd be coming in with a $25,000 down payment. For your escrow requirements in terms of closing costs and prepaid insurance, taxes, plan on an additional, let's call it $10,000. And really, if you want to be able to sleep well at night as an investor, you don't want to be completely dried up in terms of liquidity. So if I were purchasing this property today, given its age, given its lack of updates, I'm most likely going to be planning on spending some money to get the units to where I want them to be. I wouldn't be purchasing this property with less than, let's call it $20,000 worth of liquidity. So if we're saying $25,000 down payment, $10,000 for closing, $20,000 for possible improvements like day one the furnace goes out or it turns out you need to have a new roof. 25, 10 gets you 35, an additional 20. You really wouldn't want to be purchasing this property with less than $55,000 worth of liquidity. And that, again, that's going to be all of your down payment, your closing costs, and enough money on hand to where you'd reasonably be able to sleep at night. That's how I would go about doing it. Now, if you're buying this as an owner-occupied, you are going to live in the property. I mean this sincerely. In all the years I've been doing real estate, I don't think there's been a better entry point in terms of becoming a first-time home buyer. You've never owned real estate before. 2024 is a great time to be entering the ranks of homeownership. And a couple programs I want to bring your attention to. These are going to be somewhat regional specific. So obviously my clientele is going to be Capital District of New York State. However, if you're working, regardless of whatever state you're in, if you're working with a real estate agent that's worth their weight in salt, they should also be able to educate you on programs available in your area as well. So the first one we'll start with is going to be for folks throughout New York State, Homebuyer Dream Program. This is a grant. So it's as long as you continue to live in the property, you will not have to pay this back. And they are currently for 2024 granting up to $20,000 per home buyer. So how the program works is you do need to enroll in a homeowner education class. Very minimal effort required on your part. It is going to be designed for lower income folks, okay? Possibly, lower end of middle class, but ideally grant programs are designed for lower income folks. So depending on where you live, there's going to be different income thresholds. Definitely do your research on this. But again, this is going to be throughout New York State. This is through the Federal Home Loan Bank, and different banks that you may be working with partner with the Federal Home Loan Bank. So you wouldn't be going directly to these folks here. You would actually be going to your individual bank who partners with these folks to obtain the loan, and they would be able to educate you. So from a sheer dollar amount perspective, this is going to be the largest opportunity available to you. Definitely worth checking out. The next couple are going to be, I don't have any relationship with these lenders. I don't really care. These are just interesting programs that I came across. This is Bank of America. I have not had a client use them, I don't believe, for financing in the past, but they have home buyer grants. So here's one for $7,500 that can be used towards closing costs. Here's another program that offers up to, looks like $10,000, and they do offer a 3% down mortgage option for lower income folks. So again, if you have a relationship with Bank of America, or even if you don't, this is a pretty great program. Anytime anyone's offering you free money, it's worth a phone call, right? And we're talking multitudes of thousands of dollars here. So that's something Bank of America is offering. This one's a little bit more niche because not a lot of areas are serviced by First National Bank of Scotia. I actually came across this over the weekend. I believe they were running like Facebook ads or something, but this program kind of jumped out as being interesting. So it's not a grant, but it's a 0% down mortgage option. And you can do 1 to 2 unit properties. Obviously, we're buying a duplex, so this would be a great fit. But you can borrow up to $300,000, 100% financing, which is fantastic. But equally as great is no mortgage insurance, which is amazing. As someone that's currently paying mortgage insurance, I wish I wasn't. So this is a pretty amazing option. So again, I don't have any relationship with First National Bank of Scotia. I don't believe any clients are currently using them. This isn't a paid promo. However, if they'd like to pay me, that would be great. But again, if you happen to be in the area and you're looking for a low down payment option, this would be pretty great. And finally, this one's going to be super niche. Wherever you're buying, reach out to your municipality specifically, because they may have programs available as well. Not specifically for first-time home buyers, but funding available to increase the quality of housing in the area. So here we are. This is from the Gloversville. Who the heck is this? The Gloversville Neighborhood Improvement Committee or District. Anyway, it's grant programs up to $15,000 for lower income folks to improve the quality of their housing. This is fantastic, right? And these are all things you can find just doing a basic Google search. Speak with your attorney, right? Your real estate attorney. Speak with your real estate agent specifically, because they should be knowledgeable on these, and also do your own due diligence. But just over the course of these here, sometimes grant programs can be stacked on top of each other. So you can qualify for one and you can also qualify for another. So if you are looking to do something like this, where you're middle-ish income, lower income, looking to buy an investment property that you are going to live in, that's the key part. None of these are going to be for investors only. You have to live in the property. But long story short, long-winded way of saying, there's a lot of money out there, and you really would be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't explore all options available. Because again, if there's free money out there, I want to make sure I'm getting it, and I want to make sure that you get it too. We'll wrap up today's video with a financial analysis. However, before we do so, just a quick reminder, this video is brought to you by S.J. Lincoln Realty, helping home buyers and sellers throughout the capital region. I've been a real estate investor for over a decade at this point and operate the office here as the licensed broker. If you or somebody important to you has a real estate related need in the capital region, I'd highly encourage you to make a connection. Steven@sjlincoln.com. That's my email address, goes directly to me. Or you can visit sjlincoln.com/book-a-call. And there you're able to schedule a phone or a Zoom conversation with myself. Again, that email is steven@sjlincoln.com, or visit sjlincoln.com/book-a-call. That's it. Let's get back to the video. When purchasing a property for yourself, the most important thing is always going to be what makes you happy. what are you looking to get out of homeownership? Now, for today's example, there is a rental component to it. So if you look into the future, you are going to be living in one unit. You're going to be renting out the other. However, at some point, you're likely to be moving out. You're not going to be living in this property forever, and you're going to be renting out both units. Doesn't need to be tomorrow. Doesn't need to be 5 years from now. But when you look into the future, you want to make sure, does this property pencil as strictly an investment? So yes, what's important to you in terms of what you're looking to get out of home ownership, we want to make sure that we're achieving that. But at the same time, this is a financial investment. We want to make sure that it makes sense. So for the analysis today, we have a few givens. We're going to say that we're going to be purchasing the property for $125,000. We're going to be doing so at a 6.5% interest rate for 30 years or 360 payments. First thing we're going to solve for is, what is our mortgage payment going to be? And we're going to be using Excel today to solve for this. And that's going to be the payment function. And again, we're going to be using the givens to be able to solve for this. So what is our monthly obligation going to be when we try to borrow $125,000? And for purposes of today's video, we're going to be assuming that we're borrowing 100% of the purchase price. When you go to buy your property, you might be putting down 3%. You might be putting down 5%. If you're buying it as an investment property, as we talked about earlier, plan on somewhere in the 20 to 25% down payment. However, today we're saying we're borrowing the whole kit and caboodle. So the principal and interest portion of our payment is going to be $790. Next thing we're going to solve for, and this information is going to come to us from the property listing. Again, we don't automatically believe whatever is in the listing to be accurate. We always want to verify. However, they're saying the property taxes are $3,500 for the year. Insurance, you can plan on, roughly, we'll call it $1,200 for the entire year to insure your property. Repairs, for my investment properties, I typically set aside $50 per month per unit. This home looks to be in slightly more disrepair than your typical listing that you would see. It hasn't been updated in quite some time. So I would be more comfortable setting aside, let's call it $75 per month per unit. And that's going to get us what I believe to be a fair amount, because the last thing you want is to not have the funds on hand to be able to rectify if there's some type of a leak or something needs to be replaced. As a property owner, those are the types of things that keep you up at night. Not that things are going to go wrong, because they are. It's that when things go wrong and you don't have the money to rectify the problem. Water and sewer, that's going to be a pretty minimal expense. We'll say $50 per month. And for utilities, the utilities in the property are separate. So each unit is going to pay for their own. You're living in the property, so we'll say $100 per month. So your gross expense, how much is it going to cost you to own this property? So we're going to be adding up all of our expenses. And we are planning on every month, we're going to be spending just shy of $1,500 to own this property. Now, the other thing we want to take into account is that there is rental income to be included. So we're going to be living in one unit. We're going to be renting out the other. How do we determine how much we're going to be able to generate from the other unit? We're going to go back to the comparable sales we were looking at earlier. When you are determining what you can rent a space for, the MLS is going to be the best source, because it actually has what owners are currently earning. Now, you can look at apartments.com. You can look at Facebook Marketplace. Those are all active listings, and those are what owners are hoping to earn. First, start with what owners are actually earning. And the MLS, if you don't have access to the MLS, your agent does. So you can periodically reach out to your agent, say, hey, I'm looking to fill a vacancy. Approximately what do you think I could get for this? For the comparable sales we're looking at, unfortunately, they didn't have the rent included, which is a bit lazy for the listing agent not to have included that here. So we have estimated values here. The property was vacant at time of purchase, so they estimated what the rental income would be. Never trust that because you'd be surprised. It's never less. We'll put it that way. It's never been, or it's never been more, I should say. You've never seen an estimated amount and then it turns out, oh, I actually ended up getting $200 more than what the agent estimated. No, the estimated amounts are going to be pretty inflated. So we don't want estimated. We don't want blanks. We want what actual rental amounts are. And this one doesn't include it either. So we don't have it within the comparable sales we were looking at. Again, this is blank. So we are going to search, are there any apartment rentals not within a sale, but these are strictly listed on the MLS as sales. And in smaller municipalities where the price points are going to be less, these are going to be pretty tough to come across. And the reason is because agents are going to charge such a premium to be able to list these, it's really going to eat up a lot of the profit margin for an owner to hire an agent to then be able to rent out lower price point apartments, meaning owners end up typically doing it themselves. So you're better off going on to your Facebooks, marketplaces, your Zillows. When you get into cities of Saratoga Springs, the city of Albany, higher price points, it makes a little bit more sense for owners to hire agents to fill vacancies. So there you'll see plenty of data points. We did come across 2 actual listings that I wanted to show you folks here. This one is on Spring Street. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And they ended up getting $1,000 a month for this. And we'll take a look at some of the photos here. Yeah, wow, okay, ours is better than this, right? This is fine. So this is what $1,000 gets you for a 2-bed. And I believe there was one more else I wanted to look at too. Where was that? That's on Spring Street. Where was the other one? Montgomery. Here we go. This is the one I wanted to look at. So again, this is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Again, rented for $1,000. And when we look at our photos, and again, we're looking at transactions over the past 12 months, right? We don't go further back in time. This is very functional, very, very basic. And I would say very much on par with the quality of the apartment we will someday be looking to rent out. So this is what $1,000 gets you for a 2-bed, 1-bath. Can we say we would get $1,250 for a 3-bed? I think that's pretty reasonable. So let's go ahead and we'll plug that in. For vacancy, there are going to be points in time where somebody moves out in an apartment and you can't necessarily fill it right away. So I always plan on, we'll call it 6% for your vacancy rate. So you want to plan on, okay, the apartment's not always going to be full. At some point in time, it is going to be empty. So we want to account for that in our analysis. So the net rental income is going to be your rental income minus your vacancy rate. So realistically, we're planning on earning $1,175 per month. So next we can solve for our net monthly housing expense. And that's going to be the amount going out the door. So that's the $1,481 minus how much money we think is going to be coming in, the rental income. And that gets us a monthly expense of just over $300. So it's going to cost us $300 per month to own this property. Pretty good, right, for housing. Next, I thought it would be a fun exercise to kind of look into the future, because as real estate owners, the day-to-day, the month-to-month, the week-to-week, you don't see a big change in terms of your income or your how much your net worth is. It's more of a bigger play, long-term play. So what does it look like after 5 years? First, we're going to solve for what is our mortgage pay down? How much have we paid down our mortgage over the 5 years? And in order to find that out, we're actually going to look at something called an amortization schedule. Easy for me to say. And that is how your loan gets paid down. So every mortgage payment that you make, a portion of it goes towards principal, a portion of it is going to go towards interest. The farther down in the life of the loan that you go, more goes towards principal, versus early on in the loan, more is going to go towards interest. So if we look at payment number 60, which is going to represent the 5-year mark, we are going to owe $118,000 at that point. And that is not what I wanted to solve for. We wanted to solve for equals U minus. Great. So we have paid down close to $6,500 of our mortgage over the first 5 years of the loan. Next is going to be appreciation. How much is your property appreciated in value? So this is going to be, obviously, if you took on a big renovation, that's going to juice the number quite a bit more. However, just in terms of as a whole, how much is appreciation, how much is real estate value going to rise in your particular area? I know for my rentals in the capital region, I plan on somewhere in the 2.5% to 3% per year. My expectation that property values are going to rise. In this particular area, I would say it's probably going to be less than the average. So if I'm planning on 2.5% in the capital region as a whole, maybe we're closer to 1% here in Gloversville. So over 5 years, let's call it somewhere in the 1% per year. So maybe $6,500 of appreciation over a 5-year period. And next we're going to solve for how much did we spend to get this? So we got mortgage pay down. So we've increased our net worth with the mortgage pay down. We've had appreciation. The building is worth more now than when we paid for it. How much did it cost us to get there? And that's going to be our net monthly expense times 5 years. So the homeownership expense is going to be the amount we spent minus the good stuff, minus the mortgage pay down, minus the appreciation. So over a 5-year period of owning this property, it's cost us just under $5,500 for our total housing expense, okay? What is the alternative? So let's say we didn't buy the property and instead we rented, right? That's the alternative. Do you own or do you rent? So we rented the same property, the same apartment that we're looking to live in now. How much would that have cost us? Well, we know what the rental amount is. We've already determined that. It's $1,250, right? So if we take $1,250, this is the alternative, and we multiply that by the 5-year period, it would have cost us $75,000 to rent. And what would we have gotten for that? Squadoosh, right? You don't get anything. You don't get the appreciation. You don't get the mortgage pay down. You don't get any type of cash flow, anything like that. So the amount that we've won, well, that's going to be the bad stuff, the alternative, minus the good stuff. So we've won $69,000 by owning this property instead of renting this property. That's a massive difference. That's a huge difference, right? And that's not taking into account in the future, rent prices typically increase, right? So you would be earning more in rental income, while at the same time, if you remained a renter, you're going to be paying more in rental income, right? So this is the power of owning real estate. You get the mortgage pay down, you get the cash flow from month to month. And this is also, keep in mind, at some point, you're going to be moving out. You're not going to be living in this property forever. So from the time being, it's costing you $306 a month to live there. Well, what happens when you move out? Well, instead of $1,250 worth of rental income, suddenly it turns into $2,500 a month in rental income. And then we go from it's costing us $5,000 over a 5-year period, then it's not costing us anything. Then we're really starting to see the powerful benefits of owning real estate, where you're generating a monthly cash flow, you're paying down your mortgage, the property is increasing in value, maybe you're doing some renovations along the way. That's when it really gets powerful. But you don't necessarily need to be there tomorrow. The most important thing is that you're taking the step into home ownership. And this is a fantastic way to do so. We've explored the market. We've determined what an appropriate price to pay for the property is. We've taken a look at different loan programs that might be a great fit. Is there free money in terms of grant funding that would be available to you? And finally, we wrapped up with financially, what would this look like? What does it really look like to own real estate, to own a rental property? Does it make sense? Hopefully you've determined A, that you got something out of this video, but B, I hope there's a handful of people out there that actually do make the jump, that say, this is more reasonable, this is more obtainable than what I ever thought possible. I can do this, because guess what? You can. You can do this. I did it. Lots of clients I've worked with have made the transition. You can do it too. So again, hopefully you got something out of this video. I'm really hopeful that some of you will be able to make that move. Again, transitioning away from being renters if you're ready for it. And if you are ready, get as much knowledge as humanly possible, educate yourself, but at some point you got to make the jump. You got to do it. You can only listen to so many podcasts, watch so many videos like this, or read so many books. At some point you actually do have to do it. So Thank you for watching. I do hope you got something out of this. If you have questions, please leave them in the comment section. The content gets a lot better if there is actual back and forth in terms of comments and questions, people looking to get, even more educated than just watching this video. So hopefully you got something out of this. If you do want to connect with me directly, steven@sjlincoln.com. That is my email address. Or you can book a phone or a Zoom conversation, sjlincoln.com/book a call. Again, that's steven@sjlincoln.com, sjlincoln.com/book a call. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon.